Welcome to episode 3 of LongStory Short, a collection of side hustles, cool jobs, and interesting hobbies from your coffee shop regulars. Today, for episode 3, we are actually here with Owen Pye, the man behind the camera, who thought that he was only going to have to do episode 1 and then never be in front of this camera again. But we had some scheduling issues for our episode 3. So here Owen is in all his glory. Owen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on. My name is Owen Pye, and I'm a regular here at LongStory. And if you listen to episode 1, I was asking Eric the questions, but today we're turning the table, and he's going to ask me some questions.
I mean, for a podcast about coffee shop regulars with interesting hobbies and side gigs, you completely fit that bill. So I've known Owen since right around when we opened. He reached out to me originally about us doing some live music here. So I know that he kind of touches our local music scene. I know he was part of us when we did our Harvest Festival. He was out here, he helped us set up music, but he was also out there taking photos, shooting some video reels, so I know he does that. I think you do wedding videography as well.
Yeah.
Anything that I'm missing before we dive into some of these topics?
I mean, you pretty much covered
You're a
most of it.
musician yourself,
I am a
though,
musician,
right?
and then I also am involved with like experiential marketing, with like live event stuff as well.
Oh,
so
awesome.
There's a little bit of a random spectrum.
So moving back to like the beginning of this.
Yeah.
So when did I'm going to start with music scene.
Okay.
Like when did you first get involved in the music scene? Like were you a kid growing up that was just like always had his headphones on, or did you play instruments, or what?
So that's a great question. So level 0, I guess, to that question is I grew up in a church. In the church, my dad was a pastor, and so I was involved. I saw live music on that type of setting a lot.
Yeah.
Not always good, but I heard it and I was around it, and that was I grew up in the '90s, early '90s, and so always was around music. And probably when I was like 12 or 13, we had music equipment at our house a lot. There was always like band practices and things of like other people, like just bringing their drum set over or whatever. And actually at the time I was riding the school bus with my neighbor who I didn't know. He just moved in from Texas, and he was kind of a loner like me. And he was like, "Hey, I play drums. You play guitar, really?" And I was like, and I said, "Sure, yeah, I play guitar." I did not play guitar. I just owned a guitar.
You were passively learning guitar at the time.
So he was like, "Let's get together," and like, it had a little bit of a kid like energy. It's like, you're a kid, I'm a kid. Let's go do kid stuff.
Yeah.
That was the energy, and so we got together and we just started playing. I did not know any chords, nothing. Just started playing like on the strings, like Louie Louie, like just 3 notes and like just turn up the grunge and had a lot of fun with that. But I did get a little bit better, more self-taught, started playing bass a lot more. Early on, I played with this band called Cat Jump, which is not super noteworthy other than my own self. It was like a band of a couple of guys I went to school with. And actually, all of them are pretty talented musicians. One of them is a guy named John Crane. So shout out to John Crane if you're listening. Singer-songwriter based in Collinsville. And then another guy named Andy Orr. He's a audiologist or something for Google now. So like very spectacular. And another gentleman named Nathan Jatko, who's the greatest musician I've ever played with, was the keyboardist for that band. And Nathan, unfortunately, passed away a few years ago, so we honor him. But so I got a early on like introduction to music, live music with these really great musicians. And so I was never that great, and I still am not that great.
You just weaseled your way in somehow with this group.
It was like literally their bassist went to college, and they're like, "What about that other kid that plays bass?" So they asked me to come play with them. So I started going to band practice with them. We played shows all the time. I remember my homecoming junior year of high school, I left early and went at the time it was 313 in Belleville, actually, and the Hells Angels were having a meeting there.
my God.
So at 17 or 16, whatever, I was leaving homecoming to go play at the Hells Angels place with my band, and that was like the best. Like that was the best years. And then fast forward to almost out of high school, and we kind of had a falling out. You know, it was like I wanted to be more serious with the band, and
I mean, that's how all the band scenes work,
know.
right? Like every member, like
yeah,
you
luckily,
never hear a clean like band story of like, yeah, like we all joined together in high school and we've been best
Yes.
friends ever since then.
Yes.
Like,
And so it kind of grew out of a frustration from like the business side of the music, if you can even call it that. I was frustrated because I was wanting to do more, and I was feeling like I was doing more work than other band members and whatever. And we ended up parting ways. Now, fast forward, we're all good friends now, but
Yeah.
at the time it was heated. And in fact, I'll tell this because it's a podcast, right? My buddy John at the time purchased my name, owenpye.com.
what?
He purchased it, and this was again like early 2000s. Purchased that domain and forwarded it to a pornography site,
No.
and like flooded the school with this information. And so like for like a couple of days, it was like my name and like information was associated with that. He apologized. He was like, "Hey, just buy the thing from me." So now I owned owenpye.com, like early 2000s.
And what a great like origin story for owenpye.com, man.
Started out as a not family friendly site.
No.
And it evolved into not a family. No, I'm kidding. So I actually out of high school started playing solo more and more. It was right around the MySpace days.
Yeah.
So I was like trading shows with bands in other towns. So I would message them and say, "Hey, I've got a, KC Hall here. I'll book a show for you if you book a show for me." And that was pretty commonplace at the time. And that took off. I was touring a lot, playing a lot of shows, doing that whole thing. And that evolved. I got married young, and my wife and I had a kid young. And after like he was like 2, after he could like start to walk, my youngest son, we were on the road full time, just the 3 of us. So
Yeah.
we did that for about a year, just the 3 of us in a car. Didn't live anywhere.
Family
We were
caravan?
family vagabonds. And so that was like 2010 or whatever. I'm gonna take a sip of this hot chocolate that Eric made. It's delicious, by the way. Small plug there for LongStory Coffee. But started doing shows with them. Did that for a little while, and then kind of came back. Got signed to a record label. That didn't work out.
Whoa. So you got signed and everything.
Yeah.
You were like, this was gonna be like your life.
It
like
was,
you had
well, yeah. I mean, I knew that it didn't pay the bills. Even then, like if we were traveling, it would pay enough to like put the gas in the car and like go to the next city.
and pay for the hotel room
Yeah,
and
and that's about
your
it.
dinner. So
But at the time, it was okay. Like we were young, and we were, we had a lot of support of like friends and family, and we still do. We have a lot of people that we still know from that time period that take care of us as it were. They're our extended family, and we're not living off of them mooch-wise, but
Yeah.
they just, the support that you have. And actually, that kind of rubs elbows into, I'm giving you the whole thing, but I was trying to be a freelancer, and I didn't know what that meant, so I would just basically take any job I could when I was home from
Yeah.
the road, and that was always like factory jobs or like whatever random terrible job there was. And I didn't know how to market myself as, hey, I'm independently booking tours, I'm writing music, I'm the tour manager, I'm booking all these shows, I'm doing all this hard business stuff
Yeah.
on my own. I didn't know how to market that. So when I go to a job interview, they'd be like, "What'd you do for the last 9 months?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." And I didn't know
Yeah.
what to say.
I worked in a factory on the line.
Yeah, yeah. And usually it was like right off a tour, so it'd be like 6 months of nothing on a resume, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And so I got introduced to the world of experiential marketing, which is essentially, brands come in with a budget and they want to activate an event or a tour. And that at the time was a pretty lucrative business where you could just sign on for a week of work and make a couple $1,000. And so I started getting more into that freelance. That led to me working for a tech company out of Florida who was very plugged into that space. And then I went from traveling with music to traveling with like tech experiential stuff a lot.
Yeah.
And so my last year with that company I was traveling 200 days out of the year, and I had 2 small kids. And so at the time it was just like, this ain't working.
Yeah.
So hung that up, and then started actually as the marketing manager for a company based in St. Louis. Did that for a few years, and then merged over to like a media role where I was basically a one-man video department. And so for the last 2 years, that's basically what I've done. Just been a full-time video person. And in the last couple of months, I've kind of severed ties with that 9 to 5 that I had, with the goal of just pouring all the fuel I have onto growing this, small business, doing that thing. So I know. Sorry, you were asking about music.
I know, and look, it all meshed together. So currently you're it's a videography company that you have, or is it like is it more than that? Like, what is the?
So I would say, as a human, I have my hands in several different things, but as a business person, I'm all in with the video part of it, and trying to actually this podcast is similar to the business model that I'm trying to promote to other businesses of like, hey, let's get together for half a day, let's shoot a bunch of content for you, let's get it out to where you've got bite-sized pieces of content, but it's not going to take your whole month to like plan and create this, because that can get really costly. I mean, you would know this too, but it's like you can have good, cheap, or fast. Like, you can't have all 3. You can only have 2.
Oh yeah, I always talk about that. That's something I'm always about. So.
And so small businesses usually need it to be all 3. And so trying to find that path where it's like, okay, how can we do something where I, as the creator, can make money doing it, because it takes time to do, but also what's a price point that won't kill you as a small business? Like, small businesses don't have thousands of dollars to put towards marketing.
Yeah.
And occasionally too, I do not have to, but I get to work with bigger brands, and I've done that, and I enjoy that just the same. But it's just a different beast there. That now it's like, it's a lot less work. I hate to say it that way, to grow those clients, but it's just I'm not as passionate about.
It's not as fulfilling in the end. Like, whenever you see your mom and pop shop that like finally gets some social media attention for the first time, or has an event that goes really well, and it's the reaction from them, versus a bigger company that's probably like just looking at it and they're like, how many interactions did you get us, or what was the attendance? Okay.
Yes, and that was, and I'm not here to throw shade, but the company that I left, that's kind of where I was. The last year I was there, I made 90 videos in 6 months as a one-person band, and that is a lot of work.
Like every other day, basically, you had a video going out.
Yeah, and the feedback is always like, what's the ROI? What's this? And I agree with those statements, and my goal is to help businesses see that and find that. But when you're getting that from your own team, it's like it can be very wearing.
Yes.
It's like if we don't even see what the value, if we don't have the same values, it's hard to grow anything together. But if we can start from a place of like, okay, we see the need here, how do we get there, and then how do we measure it? For them, it's more like, how do we measure it, and could we ever get there?
Are we getting a return on this? Like,
or like, what's the goal here? So like, everything you do, start with that question in mind, including videos. So like, what's the goal? What are we trying to do? Versus just throwing it to the wind. Unless it's just like a really cool podcast that just needs to happen, which I feel like is where we're at here.
So then you said you left that full-time job recently then? And now this is...
Yes, I left about 30 days ago, left my job, and that's been great. I mean, the every 2 weeks of a paycheck going away sucks, but also waking up and going, I have full autonomy on what I work on today, which is both freeing and scary, obviously. And then keeping the lights on at home, and then also like investing in what I've been doing and creating, like the gear costs a lot, everything costs a lot to put together.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. It's like, and you don't have to buy fancy gear to make cool stuff. That's not the point of what I'm saying. But
investing in the business to grow is expensive.
it's expensive, and it's worthwhile though too. And it's like, okay, and if you love what you do and you're doing it well, like it'll pay. You'll get paid back eventually.
Yeah. So, but you still have your hands in like the music side of things as well, correct? Because I mean, I know you've set up 1 or 2 shows for us. You did one. We did one inside the cafe. I think late spring, early summer, and then you helped us organize our Harvest Festival with the 3 bands that you performed in one of those as well, correct? So you still have your hands pretty closely tied in the music side.
So yeah, and so the short answer is no. I'm not super involved like I was at one time. I haven't written and released new music in a long time. I've got a couple of songs I've been sitting on for years that haven't just collected dust, as it were. But I have been playing live with my brother-in-law Joel, which his band is just Joel. That's what he calls it.
All uppercase, right?
All uppercase.
Yeah.
If you look up, I think it's Listen to Joel is his handle. But if you look that up, he's been having me play just guitar and like Rhodes and stuff like that. So that's more of an outlet for fun. Like the posture of that band is very just like light-minded. But Joel actually played with me years ago when I did full band Owen Pye music. So it's kind of cool. And actually, so did Ryan.
You guys just always
the
name
drummer.
them after yourself. How many self-titled groups were you guys in?
we had a couple that were not self-titled, but no, actually we were called Owen Pye and the Sunday School Band at the time. So the short answer is I need to get back into it, but right now all my creative energy is going into growing the business, and then playing with Joel is nice because I'm not having to like write that music by myself. It's just like show up to a practice and like run through it and like go do it, which is, you can have fun with it still.
Yeah, for sure. So I had another follow-up question for you, which was coming. Oh man, now I'm blanking right now. You threw me off here.
That's okay.
So as the video business, starts to grow and expand, like where do you see this going? Like, do you see yourself is a production studio? Is that something that like you do with that kind of business, or is this like a traveling, like you go on site and do?
I most enjoy documenting style. So for me, I think probably going on site places is most of the work I'm going to be doing. Mm-hmm. That being said, it's really nice to have your own personal, whether that's an office or a home studio, that you always have a little setup ready.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to, so if you have an idea for something, you don't have to spend 3 hours setting up, because that really is a discouragement to like, imagine if you're an author and like every time you have an idea to write something down, like there's no pencils for like 2 hours drive. You got to go find a pencil.
You have to go shave a ink quill. a feather down and make your own ink and start your.
And if you've read War of Art, that's resistance, right? Like the goal of any creative, it's to just put in the time. Yeah. So it's like your job isn't to make $1 million as a videographer or an author. Your job is to wake up and write 1,000 words. Like write your thing and then move on.
Yep.
And for me, like even when this probably doesn't really answer your question, but like when I'm trying
doesn't always have to.
When I'm trying to build anything, if I don't have a creative time in my day, it affects everything. And I think people, whether they would call themselves a creative or not, they have that. Like I think we're born with it. I think it's something genetic or biological or faith, whatever. But there's something inside of us that we need to. There's something inside of us that needs to come out.
You need to create something.
Yeah,
you need to leave your mark somehow on something,
and sometimes that's maybe that's a form of motherhood or fatherhood, or it doesn't always look like releasing the thing that has like a barcode on the back of it. But we all have it. So if you don't claim to be a creative, like don't believe that narrative. It's not true. So
so as this this business, you start to really focus in and give a whole lot of attention and growing it. I mean, is this like a solo freelance gig, or do you think at some point you might like, hey, I got a team that comes with me, and like we come and hang out and set up and.
So that's kind of how I've always, in the company, by the way, is just Owen Pye Media, which, sorry.
You got to plug Owen Pye.
It's Owen Pye Media.
If you search up Owen Pye, you will find every bit of history of.
You'll find so much crap. You'll find so much terrible stuff.
All roads will lead to Owen Pye.
Oh, yeah.
So.
No, definitely I do not. I mean, I love being a one-man band in the sense that, like, I enjoy it, but I much prefer working with other individuals. And there's a couple of guys in this area and gals that are just incredible that, we help each other out. It's like, it could be their project or my project. That doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just like working with people that are good at their thing, good at their craft. And actually, I would consider myself more of a producer than a videographer or whatever. Like
you want to be more of the top looking down kind of. Yeah. That's the goal, but to get there, you obviously have to work your way up through it.
You have to do all the things, or at least have a respect for the process of all the things, so that you can, one, have credibility in what you're saying, but then also you understand the effort it takes. Lines like "fix it in post," like. You don't say those things because that takes an hours of that person's day.
Yeah.
And that's not, accurate thing to think through. But no, there are some, ideally I like to work with other people. There's a couple of folks that I bring in on projects and like I said, vice versa. But I want to make cool things. And that's the short version of it. And I think everyone should be compensated for that. So we're trying to figure that out.
You see yourself pursuing keeping music as like a side thing that you always do? Like, do you think you'll always kind of passively play in some bands, or keep connections with music scene? And
well, and that's a good question. And in fact, like playing with Joel, and you're even like my hey, let me set up a show over here. That's like kind of a way that I try to stay plugged in, because I really still do enjoy going to local shows. There are so many great bands in St. Louis, and I feel like I was disconnected from that for so many years. Like at one point, I knew every band in St. Louis. Shout out to like the OGs. I don't know if you remember STL Punk. I don't think you even know what that is.
No, see, and this was gonna say, I was like, what? Yeah. What is your getting off topic a little bit from one of my previous? What's your favorite genre of music? What's your favorite band? Like artist?
Favorite band. Okay.
Well, answer me. So rapid fire questions that I just shot at you. Favorite genre of music?
Well, I like the rapid fire. Okay, favorite genre is probably just like indie, because it's such an umbrella, and so many things can fall into that. But I think the requirement for indie music is, one, it needs to be real in some way, whatever that means. It can't be like this overproduced thing. Mm-hmm. It can be, but like it has to be real at some aspect. But then also there's like the human like emotion that cuts through it. And so that can also hit pop, it can hit folk, it can hit country, it can hit all those things. But
you see indie / and then it's literally every category.
Okay, let's go.
So that's a favorite band?
Okay, I would say my favorite artist is probably Sufjan Stevens. I don't know if you're familiar. Sufjan Stevens, we could have a whole episode about him, but he is incredible. He's like one of the greatest songwriters of our generation. He actually wrote an album years ago called Come On Feel the Illinois. It was a part of his aspiration of making an album about each of the 50 states, which he didn't do. He just made 2. He made one for Michigan, which is where
his goal was to do 50, and he made it to 2?
It was more of a PR like joke. Like, I'm going to make 50 on each of the states. But Illinois, that record is hands down my favorite record. And if you haven't heard it, it's perfect. And every song is about a different part of Illinois, which is great. The first song is about concerning the UFO sightings near Highland, Illinois, which is where I grew up. And it's just a fun little quirky thing but like the opening song of that record is about the town I grew up in, where there were multiple sightings of aliens, and it's a pretty fun, but the whole record is great. I'm sure you've heard Chicago. You probably don't know it. The song Chicago is on Little Miss Sunshine. But great record.
I'm sure I know that one. That's something that sounds very,
just a perfect. He's got so much music, and his Christmas catalog we're hitting that time period. His Christmas stuff is just perfect.
When this comes out, it's going to be Christmas.
It's gonna be Christmas. That's what I'm saying. So get your Sufjan on.
So back to your new side.
Yeah.
It's not even a side hustle anymore now. Back to your business.
Just a belly flop
to
hustle.
Owen Pye. What is your favorite thing about running your own business at this point?
Oh gosh, favorite thing. I think it definitely is the autonomy part. It's like you no longer have to work on projects that you don't fully believe in, or even my wife and I, we kind of made a pact, like going into this season, like, hey, we're only going to work with people we want to work with. Yeah. And for so many years, like, you have to kind of like go along to get along, and not that it's like a like us versus them type of thing, but it's just like you've only got so many hours in the day. It's like spend it with people that you drive with, and, and it's like, so that's my goal, is like deal with people that I like and care about, and that they get it, and there's like a soul there, and it's not just like every business I've ever been a part of, or event I've ever worked, every brand I've been a part of, like in the back of my head, unless it truly is this, I'm thinking we're not curing cancer, like. Yeah. Like we take our things seriously, we're gonna do it really well, but then also like we're gonna give ourselves grace in this moment and go, it's okay if this isn't like the best thing that's ever happened when you're done with it. Like you don't do that in the process, but at the end you go, you know what?
You look back and you're like, it didn't go 100% perfect like how you wanted it to. But.
That's not the point. It's like the process is the thing that matters, and then at the end of it you can rest and go, I'm not here to cure cancer, I'm just here to build relationships, make things happen, and leave a good mark on the rest of the world. So.
And I'm sure the end product, it's a much better end product whenever you enjoy the person that you're working with, whether versus just doing it as like, this is a job for me and I'm doing this to get my paycheck and then I'm going home.
Yeah, and I think too, another thing to keep in mind is don't like sit on your art or your product or your idea too long. Like if it hits and you're interested and you can spend a little bit of time on it and like you can get it out there, like just do it. Don't just overanalyze to the point where you're like, oh well, what if this? What if that? Like do that a little bit and like do that along the way, but don't let it stop you from like putting the thing out there.
Oh yeah, always have a lot of ideas.
Yes.
So
I love I'm always texting Eric with like random ideas, and the thing you said before the podcast, like your wife said something about like, hey, what did she say?
She was like, we need to write these down and make a list and reel it in, because it's a lot of ideas and you can't always execute on all of them.
No.
But in my response, I always say it's, you got to keep having those ideas. In my opinion, like, you never stop having the ideas, even if you're not using them all. Like creativity, right? Like and I know in your business, probably it's a big thing of keeping that creativity alive of it, because that's how you draw an audience, right? Mm-hmm. And in all of your stuff, your marketing and your videography and stuff, it's creativity is what's going to draw it in.
Yeah.
So I guess the follow-up question now: what is your least favorite part? Like, what do you not enjoy about your job now?
So I'm terrible with money, which is not good. I'm bad with money. I'm an idealist and think things don't cost as much as they do. Or the problem is like I'm always working under like, what's next month look like? I've got this set up, and then projected like earnings from that, like trying really hard not to like assume that is going to be there ever. Like, you gotta go, okay, yeah, it's probably going to come through, but probably not. Yeah. And like, if you operate under that, it can be a little bit scary, but.
So you hope that there's more consistency. That's kind of the fear right now. Of
but I would love to have like a books person, and I'm working on that. And like, but right now it's been just like consulting, and like a person looks at my stuff every once in a while, or like, because it's not cheap to pay those people that look at your stuff, but it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
But the definitely the money side and trying to figure that out, because ultimately I will take a loss to see something through, and I don't want that to be a long-term play.
Yeah.
So
nice. So Trying to think if there's any other questions to follow up on this one with. No, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. Do you do some wedding videography and stuff too? Then
I do wedding do. I do have. I've done basically everything between weddings to legal videography.
I mean, we're shooting on a deposition camera right now, right?
We are. This may never see the light of court. This may never make it to court. And then also just like, again, like documentary style stuff. So just trying to capture things. And I do photos as well. I would say I'm about 25% a photographer, because I don't want to diss anyone out there that's a real photographer. But I do take photos for people, and I give them good images for sure.
So if people are wanting to find you, Owen, and follow you and see all of the different Owen Pye businesses, how do they look you up?
Well, so years ago I deleted all of my social media, which I recommend if you can do it. But I've slowly gone, I probably need an Instagram page. So I have an Instagram thing, which is at Owen Pye, Pye. And then my website's just owenpye.com. And it'd be great if you join the mailing list on there, because that's like the best thing. Because I can just send that when there's actually something important.
Is owenpye.com, is it clean? It's clean, it's family friendly. It's not forwarding you anywhere.
It's G/PG.
Okay.
But 90s GPG.
Yeah.
So like there's a little bit of edge there, but nothing crazy. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. So yeah, definitely if you get a chance to, and you're looking for videography, photography, marketing, is that some kind of stuff that you do too?
Definitely some consulting in there, and with all those. So yeah.
Yeah. So give them a check. Check it out on Instagram. I think is probably the biggest way to kind of see a preview of everything, and then hit the website and follow them there. But yeah, Owen, I appreciate you stepping from behind the camera for the second time. First to interview me, second to get interviewed yourself. But yeah, Owen is definitely, he's going to be the man behind the camera for these episodes, or behind the mic, I guess.
And if you want to, you should definitely bother Eric about being on this podcast if you're a small business owner, because we need to get some more folks on here.
Well, more than just do you do something cool?
Yeah.
Like, do you have a cool job? You like, when you tell somebody what you do, are they like, wow? Or do you do do you have a cool side hustle, like something on that line? Like, we're always looking for somebody to chat with, and even if you don't think you're interesting, just shoot us a message and tell us what you do, and maybe we think you're interesting, even if you don't think you're interesting.
Yes. And also, if you are a local music person, like, send me your stuff, because I want to find more bands that are connected to this scene or connected to Belleville. So that's ulterior motive for me.
Yeah. So if you're a musician, hit up at Owen Pye on Instagram and find him, so that he can connect and put you in his booklet of local musicians that he can connect with. So.
And if you know what STL Punk is, drop a comment, because
I don't.
The OGs know what
I'll
that
know
is.
by the next time.
Oh, yeah, baby.
But no, thank you guys for listening to episode 3 of Long Story Short, a podcast about cool side hustles, jobs, and hobbies from our coffee shop regulars. And really looking forward to episode 4, which will probably be coming out after Christmas at some point. We don't have a really set timeline just yet, so these episodes will be mid-December, and then we're hoping to get the next one out probably after Christmas, maybe beginning of the new year.
Yeah,
but
I think it's a safe one.
Yeah, have a happy holidays,
January.
Everyone.
Yes.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's as well, and look forward to episode 4, where we don't even know who will be on. So it'll be a surprise for everybody. But
love it.
Thanks.
Thank you.